Amara collapsed to the floor, bleeding profusely. The abortion pill that Mr. Kofi had given her was clearly taking its effect. Several students rushed to get the school nurse and administration while others tried to comfort the distraught Amara. There lived a beautiful couple named Chidi and Adana. They have been dating since their university days and they cherished each other so much. Chidi is a renowned and sought-after lawyer. Same as Adana, who is an engineer. They are a career-driven couple. Hence, they had no plans of giving birth until they reach a certain height in their career. Adana have been pregnant many times but aborted them because of their agreement. Her husband supported her decisions because he is not ready for parenting too. They believed raising a child at that moment might affect their career. After years of being married, Adana's mother-in-law started disturbing her for not giving her a grandchild. She explained that she can't combine work with parenting. Her mother-in-law agreed to live with them and help raise the child. A year later, God blessed them with a fruit of the womb. Her mother-in-law was very happy and took great care of her daughter-in-law while expecting her grandchild. Months later, she gave birth to a bouncing baby girl and she was named Amara. She was cherished and loved by all. As Amara grew older, her parents hardly have time for her. It's either they are busy at work or traveling for one business or the other. And by the time they return, Amara would probably be sleeping and she hardly sees her parents despite living in the same house. Amara was brought up by her grandmother and she lacked nowhere except for her education. Despite being birthed by intelligent and career-driven parents, she was always the least of her class. Amara always tried her best but it was never enough. She couldn't tell her parents where she lacked in her education because she hardly sees them. She had no parental care and love which affected her education so much. Her grandmother couldn't help her with her assignments and class presentation because she is an illiterate. On Amara's open day at school, none of her parents showed up after promising her they won't miss it. Other parents came bearing gifts for their children and teachers. Amara was sitting alone in class. She was so sad and devastated because the open day can help her on ways to improve on her studies. Her teacher at school, Miss Nina, asked why no one showed up for her. Amara explained to her that her parents are always busy. She then followed her home one afternoon and explained to her parents on how to help Amara improve on her studies, but her parents turned deaf ears to everything Miss Nina said. Amara struggled with her education but graduated 2 years later with her grandmother supporting her on her big day. Weeks later, her grandmother became so sick and passed away. Amara cried her eyes out. Her world shattered as there is no one to take care of her anymore. She would stare at her grandmother's picture all day and would remember all the unforgettable moments they shared. One morning her parents called her explaining to her that she would be attending a boarding school for her secondary education. Amara was so sad because she had just lost the only family she had. When school resumed, her parents drove her to school as they dropped her luggage from the car booth. They zoomed off, leaving her to face her new reality. Amara raised her head looking at the school building with the banner, "Welcome to Royal Heights International School." She saw other students with their parents helping them with their bags and she was left alone to struggle with hers. The students assembled at the school hall to be welcomed by the principal, a woman in her 40s, who welcomed them and told them the rules and regulations of the school, and she gave them their uniforms and stationaries. Amara settled into her hostel and she met with her roommate, Aisha. A junior basic student, she has a round face and beautiful dark skin. Amara arranged her clothes, shoes, provisions, and laid her bed. Amara's class was filled with bright students, but she was so shy and lacks confidence to walk up to any of them to help her out. She scored the least in her assignments and tests and would still not ask for help from her fellow students. During break time, Amara eats alone at the school cafeteria and other students sees her as being weird. The principal invited her parents to talk about Amara's performance at school, and they agreed on getting her an after-school tutor who is also a staff of the school, Mr. Kofi. Mr. Kofi, a young man in his 30s who graduated from one of Africa's prestigious universities. He had helped many students graduate high school in flying colors. Mr. Kofi was Amara's new tutor. She was happy that she would at least improve in her studies if she was tutored by him. After school, Amara would go to Mr. Kofi's office for her lessons, and she was enjoying the class and improving bit by bit. Amara moved from getting the lowest mark to getting average scores. Her parents got the news from the principal and was so happy and moved on with their busy jobs knowing she is well taken care of. Amara's class with Mr. Kofi soon quickly turned into a nightmare. Because he asked her uncomfortable questions and touched her inappropriately. The first day these incidents happened, she tried to reach her parents but they won't pick their cell phone and office lines. One afternoon, Mr. Kofi started with his uncomfortable touching, dragged her shirt with all her buttons on the floor and pushed her to the ground. The only person she thought would help her get a better future took advantage of her and slept with her. She shouted for help but no one came to her rescue. He threatened to kill her if she told anyone. On getting to her room, Amara's roommate Aisha asked her why her shirt was rumpled and her face swollen. But Amara replied by just nodding and crying. This went on for a very long time, and at times, Aisha would peep at Amara during her extra lessons with Mr. Kofi but couldn't find anything. And it was end of the term and the students went home on holiday. She couldn't talk to her parents because they were hardly at home. And she sleeps alone most of the time and she was afraid her parents won't believe her. Amara was always having pain in her private area. But she had no one to talk to. She slept alone most times because her parents are always traveling for work. She had bruises all over her body. Then school resumed again and she continued to face the molestation. Some months later, Amara woke up feeling weak, pale and sick. But thought it was school stress. She headed to class and started her daily activities. When it was time for break, she headed to Mr. Kofi's office for her lessons. They started their class and she rushed out to vomit. He said, "Don't tell me you are pregnant. When last did you see your period?" Amara remembered she had missed her period. She burst into tears. It began to look like her world began to crumble and shattered. She returned to her hostel and she rushed to vomit again. Aisha peeped and asked if she was okay. But she angrily said she was fine. Later that day, Mr. Kofi gave Amara a pill to take before she goes to bed. That it would help with the symptoms till he could find a solution. Naive Amara collected the pill not knowing it was an abortion drug. Out of fear of the unknown, Amara took the pill the next day and got ready for school. In class she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her tummy and felt dizzy immediately. As she stood to leave, the classroom was filled with shouts of "Blood! Blood!" Amara collapsed to the floor, bleeding profusely. The abortion pill that Mr. Kofi had given her was clearly taking its effect. Several students rushed to get the school nurse and administration while others tried to comfort the distraught Amara. The commotion in the classroom alerted the school authorities, who immediately rushed Amara to the hospital. Upon examination, it became evident that she had taken an abortion pill, and the authorities immediately involved the police. At the hospital, doctors worked effortlessly to stop Amara's bleeding. Her life hung in the balance as she slipped in and out of consciousness, losing lot of blood. She was rushed to the theater to undergo a minor surgery. Meanwhile, the school contacted Amara's parents about the horrific incident. The magnitude of their neglect hit them full force. They raced to the hospital, overwhelmed with guilt and fear for their daughter's life. Her classmates and roommates were interrogated. Aisha told them all she knew about it. The police quickly launched an investigation, interviewing Mr. Kofi and reviewing any evidence at school. It didn't take long for his reprehensible actions to be uncovered. A prolonged pattern of sexual grooming, abuse, and exploitation of the underage Amara. He had taken advantage of her vulnerability and lack of parental oversight in the most unforgivable way. As Amara lay fighting for her life in the hospital, her parents Chidi and Adana were consumed with remorse and self-loathing. They had failed their daughter in the most fundamental way, prioritizing their careers over her basic needs for love, safety, and protection. Adana quit her prestigious engineering job without a second thought. No promotion or project could ever be worth risking her child's well-being again. Chidi took an extended leave from his law firm, determined to be by Amara's side through every step of her physical and emotional recovery. For weeks, they hardly left the hospital, keeping a loving vigil. As Amara regained consciousness, she couldn't believe her parents were finally there. She had longed for their presence and support for so many years, only to be failed spectacularly when she needed them most. With the help of counselors and her parents, Amara embarked on a journey of healing, addressing the trauma she had endured. Her parents made every effort to regain her trust, provide her with the love and attention she deserved, and ensure her safety and well-being. The family sought justice through legal channel. His appalling actions were brought to light, and he faced severe legal consequences, including imprisonment and permanent revocation of his teaching license. Months later, Amara's parents relocated to a new city. Her mother started a supermarket business and her father moved to another branch. She joined a new school and made new friends. While nothing could erase the past, Amara's world was finally pieced back together. This time with her loving parents who realized what mattered most. The family persevered, made stronger by the obstacles they had endured, fueled by their love and determination to no longer take one another for granted.
I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell for more stories like this one. Goodbye.